who's not in the CDC next week. If you're not in the CDC, you should definitely sign up for Green Team. Green Team has a lot of fun. They get to have free food all day and chill with us. And basically, what you do is you get to test the usability of each team's servers and their setup, and you get to score them based on that. So it's a lot of fun.
And you get a T-shirt.
Yeah, get a T-shirt, free T-shirt. So come for that if you're interested.
Does anyone have just a micro USB phone charger?
Yes.
Yes.
That I can borrow? Good. Because this room hates me and will not give me Wi-Fi.
So that's Saturday the 18th, all day,
Oh, wait.
from like 8 to 4.
Yeah, those are both on. Well, that was turning on. Oh, you're looking for it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, probe requests. Yeah, exactly. So the two ways you can associate with this one is the beacon, so it broadcasts, and then you can say, hey, I want to talk, or you can actively go out and probe requests and say, I want. Okay. No, that's so yeah, so if I was trying to find one of their
Okay, so today we're going to talk about Google Dorks. So who here considers himself an expert at searching Google? Anybody? Yeah.
Take a clap.
Well, it's hard to call yourself an expert if you don't know all of Google's commands, which are actually quite extensive. So this is Google's official help page on their search operators. There's quite a few of them. But these aren't all there are. There's even more that are not even listed on their website. So all of these terms can be used to enhance your search and define very specific things. So for example, if I wanted to search for something in URL, like in URL, dinosaur, we only get results with dinosaur in the URL. So you see Wikipedia, anything that has dinosaur in the URL, we get that. So that's pretty straightforward. Can also look for info. So we could say info, like NSA.gov, see what the government's doing. Not really. Currently the internet's down, so that's not going to work. Going on. Internet's bad in here.
Yeah, you can connect to this web with firewall right now. That's still password isn't I'm using because I can't get internet.
Okay. So anyway, there's a lot of options for searching Google that you don't use every day. So that brings the question, what is a Google Dork, or what is Google Dorking? According to exploitdb.com, we call them Google Dorks, inept or foolish people as revealed by Google. Or in more simple terms, Google Dorking means using Google's advanced search techniques to find things that you wouldn't normally find by using normal search queries. So you can find a lot of crazy things on the web. And actually, that last slide had exploitdb.com. They have a massive database of tons of different Google Dorks all ready for you to click on and search real fast. So let's take a look at how a common discovery you can make using Google Dorks that you won't find just by searching Google normally. So one very common thing is webcams. I'm sure you've probably seen like a lot of webcams online before, but there's a ton of them, and most of them aren't supposed to be there thanks to UPnP, which stands for Universal Plug and Play. It's a set of networking protocols that allow devices to see each other and communicate and just do things kind of automatically. So one part of the protocol allows devices to open ports on the router. So a camera can just be plugged in and it will automatically make itself visible to the entire internet, and the person who did it might not even know. So a lot of people buy cameras for their house or for a company, for security purposes even, and they don't realize that it's on the web for anybody else to see. So that's one thing you can search for with Google. Another common one is admin login pages, whether it's for routers or switches or anything else that is also visible. Kind of similar to the first one, things that shouldn't be there. A lot of times you can find login pages, and even worse, a lot of the passwords are going to be the default ones, just people don't want to change them. And often you can find those passwords by Google searching for the user manuals or so on, which, yeah. And then another big one is PHP and server config or status pages. You don't really want people to see exactly what you're running, what kind of, what software you have installed, what servers are running. You don't want the exact details to be revealed of that, and that can be, you can easily find that stuff by Google Dorking. A big one is Etsy password and other files that are quite sensitive. Even though Etsy password doesn't contain passwords usually, you still have a list of usernames there, and it's not good to have that out there. And of course, like that, you can also find actual passwords, which is pretty bad. Another kind of fun one is finding servers that have already been hacked. So a lot of times when someone is just defacing a website, they'll leave behind a file called like something like root PHP or something like that, just to show that the site's been pwned. And you can search for that with Google. A lot of times they also might put on like a shell, like C99 shell or something. You can also find those very easily. And lots of crazy things that you wouldn't expect to find normally. So let's take a look at some sample queries and how you can start searching Google for different things. This first one, as you can see by the name of it, it searches for things with private key in the title. And it's going to be a file type of key, so it's going to find things that are private keys for servers. And so these might not even be real because they're the first results, but we'll see. We get a private key right here. That could be someone's private key for a server, and that's pretty bad because then you can do a lot of bad stuff with that. Another bad one. Didn't want that. Your password is in a log file. These are a lot of like chat files where people gave someone else a password or something like that. I don't know if there's a good one on here, but yeah, a lot of times it's like someone at a company just talking to another like an IT admin talking to another user saying, "Here's your password" or something like that. And it's stupid that it ends up online, but it does. Another common one is the C99 shell, which is a PHP shell that, darn it, that can be installed on a web server and you can do a lot of things with it. Okay. This first one actually is not a real hack site. It's just a demonstration. And if you click on something, yeah, right, haha. In case that's not convincing enough, it's a joke. But there are some real sites that have been compromised that are on this very result page here. I think probably a few of these are actual compromised sites that have this shell running on them, and you can upload. You can try to mess with the file system and stuff like that, but a lot of times it's locked down for whatever reason. Let's see. Oh, and this one's especially relevant today or now because of the recent shell shock vulnerability. There's an easy dork to look for CGI pages that contain bin bash. So sites that can be vulnerable to shell shock can be easily found by searching Google like this. So here's an example of printing CGI environment variables. And this may be vulnerable to shell shock. We don't know. We're not going to try, but it could be. You can definitely use Google to find stuff like that. So I went around the web earlier and found a few examples of things that could be found using Google Dorks. So I've collected them here. I'm going to show you a few. I've touched on a few of these already, but I'm going to go over them again. So this first one is an Apache server status page for nick.com. Like that's nickelodeon.com. This is not current. I think they stopped updating it like a year ago. It says October 29, 2013. But it appears that it was updated until then. And it's really not that bad per se, but if you look at it, you have the exact version of Apache and SSL. And if this was vulnerable to Heartbleed, you could see it up there, but it's not in this case. Still pretty bad to have all your version numbers out there like that. And also something I noticed, whether or not this is real, I don't know, but there's a username request. That alone isn't that bad, but hopefully sites don't handle passwords the same way as that. And if they did, you could probably see it on a list of GET requests like this. So that could be bad if it was done the wrong way. And here's a PHP info file, as I mentioned earlier. And this displays a bunch of PHP configuration settings and things you don't want to be public about your server. And I showed what queries I use for each one, by the way. To search for that, I search for Apache server status 4. And here, file type, things that end with .php. And this contains some more version info. Nothing too useful right here, but could be in the wrong hands. Sensitive files. I managed to find an SE password file. There are no passwords in this file, but you have a list of all the usernames in the system, which not only tell you what users there are, but it could give you a hint to what software is installed or what other services are running that aren't visible from the web. So that could be harmful in the wrong hands. And also, this one's pretty bad, a bash history file. I found this by Google Dorking, and a bash history file, if you don't know, it contains all of the commands the user has executed in bash. So in this particular file, there was actually a part where someone repeatedly was connecting to a server with SSH, and they were typing out the password flag and the actual password. So having your history file online could be bad for a number of reasons. Like I said, passwords can end up in there. Other sensitive data that you're typing, it's not good to have that visible to anyone else. And so you can see here, to search for that sort of thing, we just searched for like the, oh, it should be over here, I think. Yeah, we just searched for like the first couple lines. We know that's going to be the same on most servers, so we just searched for that. And in the URL, it actually had SE passwords for the URL. Here's the fun part. Servers that have already been compromised or hacked or otherwise exposed. For those of you who don't know, Nessus is a tool that automates security scanning of the network, so it just pretty much checks all your devices for any known exploits or misconfigurations, vulnerabilities, anything like that. And it gives you a nice detailed report, exactly what went wrong and how you can fix it. And that's good for you as a security admin, but if that file ends up on the web, everyone else knows what's wrong with your stuff. So you can search with Google for files that are from the scan report. And in this case, I found one. It shows a bunch of services that the site had opened and a bunch of security warnings, things that are exact details about what went wrong and how to fix it. So that'd be very useful in a hacker's hands. And yeah, I actually found that one. It would be good to have out there because anyone could see what went wrong. But hopefully they fixed it, but we don't know. Someone could still use it for bad purposes. And I showed this one already. It's a C99 shell, so a site that's been backdoored already for someone else to interact with. Quite easy to find actually using Google Dorking like that. Oh, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So I also went around finding some things that weren't exactly conventional, not just regular servers, not regular whatever. So I did a little searching. This one's not too interesting, but I found somebody's personal weather wing. It's like a little box that measures the weather and such. Not too interesting, but this one is it's a thing that manages. It's for managing like a server room. Has cameras, has sensors, thermometers, everything like that. And it tells you if something's overheating or if something's not working right. It has live cameras and everything, and that's pretty interesting. I don't know if you want someone else to have that if you're trying to monitor a server room. It's kind of delicate stuff, especially if you have cameras and people watching what you're doing in there. That's not good. And as you can see, this one has a pretty long string to type in Google, but all those details are pretty important, I guess. It's a PHP file, or it's not a PHP file. We're actually, the minus sign here removes something from a search, so it's not PHP, it's not ASP, not PDF. So we're just looking for that title in this case. Another one, this one is, it's actually a fingerprint security system for some building somewhere. And it manages a bunch of users and their fingerprints and if they're allowed to get in here or not, and it keeps track of whether or not they've been authorized to enter something. So, and this is actually pretty current. This was last used the 30th of September. And yeah, it's probably not good to have other people accessing this, especially since if I wanted to, I could have deleted users or added users. There was no admin, there was no login at all on this page. So that's very dangerous. You could easily give someone unauthorized access or just cause a lot of damage to a company with this sort of problem. So stuff like this should not be on the internet at all. But it's very easy to find with Google. And yeah, I blurred out the names because there were actual names on here. So, and this one's kind of fun. This is actually it's like I'm not sure if it's a red light traffic cam or just some other kind of like tollway type system, but I was watching the camera and cars are driving by, and when they go by, it actually grabs their license plate and then puts it on screen, and then keeps track of what cars are passing through. And there are a bunch of these online that you can find with Google using that simple. It's a simple text search really, but you wouldn't expect to find something like this.
So I can't really see that, but do you know where that camera, like citywide municipality is?
Well, it's one of those European license plates, so it's not in the USA at all.
Sure.
And I think there actually might be latitude, longitude on there. I can't really tell what the numbers are, but
do you know how many of those that's a traffic enforcement camera, or?
It probably is of some sort, whether it's red light cam or something else.
Did it give you any indication of like how many tickets it gave out?
I didn't really bother to go through the system at all, but I just saw this page that But yeah, it was pretty interesting watching the cars drive by in real time, and then the license plate numbers show up. So it was, yeah. And this isn't the worst, privacy failure, but it's still something you don't want out for the public, probably in most cases. And another thing, if you're going to be Google dorking, searching around for cool stuff on the web, you got to be careful for honeypots. If you don't know what honeypots are servers that are intentionally vulnerable or intentionally looking interesting for a hacker to target, because when the hacker actually does try to attack a honeypot, the company knows that someone's trying to hack them, and they can then block that IP address or take other action against that attacker. So they're intentionally placed by the company to be vulnerable or be attackable so that they can trap hackers in them, like something stuck in honey, I guess. So if you do a Google dork for files with Etsy password, one of the first ones on Google is this, which is in reality a fake file just there for people that are dorking. And at the bottom it says, this is the honeypot or honey page. And it's totally a joke. Not a joke, but it's just not real. It's just for people to find it who are dorking. And it's a pretty old page, been up since 2003, which is quite a long time ago. So this is not a new thing at all. A lot of Google dorks have been around for quite some time. So if I went to, I can go to exploitdb.com, the database of Google dorks, and see a bunch of categories like footholds, like we saw servers that are already compromised or already broken or vulnerable in some way. Usernames, passwords, all that stuff. They have lists of everything. And I like that some of these, and some of the dates go back to like 2001, 2002. This has been going on for a while, so nothing too new, but still quite useful and still hard to stop. And another one I showed you that C99 script was also fake, but these aren't actual honeypots. They're not reporting you to somebody, so they're pretty safe. But yeah, be careful otherwise. So, thoughts about this? There's some things on the internet that can be found quite easily using Google or other tools, whatever. If you think it's not on the internet, it still might be on the internet thanks to things that open up ports automatically and make themselves public, even though you don't want that. And also, in general, make sure that things can't be accessed by people who don't need access to them. So, keep things, if something's secret, keep it local, not on the internet. Make sure access rights are correct for people who need to get access. And I have a list of resources of really good dorks you can use and places where I got my information. And all my slides are up on the website. So, any questions about Google dorking? No? Okay.
Are you familiar with Shodan?
Yes. I was going to talk about that a little bit maybe, but
That's really cool.
You should mention Shodan.
yeah, Shodan is it's like a search engine, but for this purpose. Essentially, it just looks for devices on the web, whether it's web servers, cameras, or refrigerators, power plants, infrastructure in general. It looks for anything that's on the internet. So it's even more powerful than Google dorking because it's devoted to that purpose. So it's a lot of fun also. I suggest you check that out in addition. And that's it, I guess.
So you can just go there 24 hours a day and see whose accessories are online?
I guess, yeah, essentially.
Huh.
People have done some really interesting things with it. One good quote is, does that say megawatts? You can find very interesting things like jumbotrons and water pumps that say 20,000 gallons per minute on Shodan. It's interesting to use Shodan and look for things that are just listed on the telnet port too. That can possibly be quite interesting. But basically Shodan lets you search with certain filters, like by server version.
Or protocol too.
Or protocol, or of course ports. They sort of keep an up-to-date port scan of the entire internet, which is very nice of them. It's very interesting. Worth poking around at a little bit.
Just be careful not pressing any big buttons that say
Don't press-
scary words or anything.
Like if it looks like it's a diagram of a hydroelectric dam and there are buttons, don't press them.
That will get you arrested.
You can get phone calls from very nice,
Law enforcement.
yes.
The printer that they use the default settings for in the fax machine never
said a fax machine?
Well, it is like a multi-purpose printer, and the fax machines reads and stuff.
I mean, if it's networked, maybe, but I mean, someone could be calling it with a phone. I don't know. Okay, so who's up next? All right. Oh, does this need to be plugged in still?
Yes. You should just, if you just close your laptop and that's it, or
It might shut off though.
yeah, just leave your laptop open.
But it may die or something.
Once they reach the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't enough power in it, so. I'll just tell it to not sleep and then hope it doesn't die.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Grant Manley. My presentation is on computer forensics and file recovery. So, just so we have some base information on what computer forensics is and what they do, they basically go through and find data that's been either deleted or attempted to delete and recover it for either a court case or any type of information that might be useful in a course of action against a person. So, they secure and collect data without compromising evidence. They don't actually destroy the hard drive. They use the hard drive or whatever method, USB, solid state drive, to actually recover the data and preserve it. They're useful for either fraud, identity theft, property theft. There's a lot of stalking and cyber stalking that's can be traced using computer forensics, and then one of the biggest ones that is currently used is child pornography. So people don't delete things correctly, and all the stuff stays on the hard drive, and it's a big whammy for the suspect when they find this on their computers. So they're experts for a reason. The software that attempted to learn computing and has a big, tons of graphs, tons of information, and it's kind of hard to interpret. Here's a little diagram of all the things that are highlighted and all the tasks that you can do. And when people are going through a lot of these hard drives, it's important to remember why they're forensics and how much data is converted to how many sheets of paper. So 1 megabyte of data is usually 312 sheets of data, and it just increases exponentially by more data. So a forensics technician will have to go through a file and check whether it's just a regular computer file or a physical document that might be useful in a court case. So when you actually delete a file and you empty a recycle bin, what physically happens on your hard drive? So you physically delete the data that's in red, or the original data is in red, and then you say delete out of the recycle bin, and it turns it to green. So there's nothing pointing to that thing on the disk anymore. Now the best way to physically get rid of data is either to overwrite it, or either wipe the disk clean and reformat the disk. But if you don't do that regularly, your data will just be overwritten, and if you don't overwrite the data in that specific place on the hard drive, your data will continuously be there until someone finds it. So there's a lot of software that is available that can help you find data. So the general file recovery is encase software, and then TFS and FAT systems. And then Acronis does deep copies of both files and operating systems, so it's an imaging service. And then Microsoft, iTunes, Mac OS, and Ubuntu operating systems actually have their own file recovery for either the operating system or their specific products. Just so like someone deletes their PowerPoint, the Microsoft product can go and retrieve the PowerPoint even though it's deleted. So, how do you actually delete the data on different types of hard drives and stick disks? So mechanical hard drives, you would do a defragging, which sometimes helps, but it won't always delete all the data. It basically goes through the data and condenses the data into one short segment, so it's not, the disk doesn't jump around continuously. Overwriting the data is reliable because it's not differentiable between old data and new data. And then CCleaner is a really, really good way to actually delete files. It physically goes through, and if it sees something that doesn't have something pointing to it, it just clears it all out. So it's all one continuous stream of nothingness. And then solid state drives, there's a function called trim that's available that all runs, and it's basically the CCleaner on a solid state drive and a full reformat of the disk is also a standard practice. So either on USB or hard drives, you just reformat the disk, and most of all your data is physically gone. So once you go through and say, I want to delete this text file and put it to the recycle bin, you should go to CCleaner and say, delete all my data, delete all the free space, and then you have to check to make sure you work, which I'll demonstrate this program. And this actually goes through your hard drive or USB or whatever you plug into it. It'll physically go through and read everything that's available and print out whatever's there, no matter if it's been deleted or partially overwritten. It will spit out what it can see. So now I'll do a short little demo. It's not going to work too well. Darn, that's not great. So I created a file, and probably most of you can't see this, but it's just a simple text file that says it's a super secret file. It should not be seen by anyone. However, we want to delete it and make sure it's not seen by anyone. So first delete the file. Then we go to the recycle bin. And I've been doing this a lot, so I have a couple files in the recycle bin. I delete them all. However, I'm not going to defrag my disk or reformat it. I'm just going to leave it like a typical person does and believe it's gone. But it's not gone off the disk. So if I run a program called Workiva and say, scan my C drive, see what I can find on there. We'll go through the whole disk, scan the disk, return something that's available, and hopefully I can get my file, the super secret file that I deleted back. You can do this for USBs. You can say, I want it for USB, I want it for external. So I believe that this is the file we want. Or this super secret file is what we want, and we can say, I want to recover it, and you can point to wherever you want to recover it. I have a special folder called recover. I'm going to point it there. And then I'll go to my documents and go to that folder. And the recovered file is back, even though it was physically deleted at the recycle bin. So it's just a simple demonstration that you should physically know where your data is stored and how it's stored, and know that's not always going to be gone when you want it to be gone. So that's it on my presentation. It was just a simple presentation.
Okay, great. Yep. All right. I unfortunately don't have a working demo, but I do have a presentation, and well, I'll pull something together here.
This isn't working.
No, you can leave that. I've got a lot of stuff is working, but some still is not. Yep. And just so everyone knows, during this presentation, I will be sniffing Wi-Fi connections passively and actively. If you're on EDU-ROAM, you should be safe. But other than that, just know that anything that you're actually sending on the radio waves is going on the radio waves, and I'm listening to the radio waves, so I will see your stuff. Do I have that yet? No, I don't. Is this on HDMI?
Yeah, it was.
So what does ED-ROAM run off of?
802.11x.
That's not a radio wave?
Well, no, it's very nice encryption and authentication.
Okay.
It makes it so that no one can impersonate you, and no one can impersonate the access point, and everything's encrypted very well. And it's currently not broken. Every other Wi-Fi encryption scheme is broken in one way or another. WEP is horribly broken. WPA2, if someone is listening the whole time, they can actually break your keys and then decrypt everything that's supposedly protected. But 802.11x is safe. I have to find how to.
Is there actually a break in that algorithm, or is that a dictionary or brute force? Is that what you mean?
For WPA2?
Yeah.
If you know the passphrase for the network,
Yeah.
and you overhear someone's initial negotiation with the network, you can derive their specific session.
Oh,
key.
you have to have the pass. Oh, okay.
You have to have the passcode, but that means that anyone who has the passcode for the network can impersonate the access point. And you
But in an enterprise, everyone would have a different, if they use the enterprise version of that,
which
right?
is 802.11x,
Oh,
which
that
is every
is-
individual user
Got it.
has their, you can log in, there's a number of different authentication schemes. The EDU-ROAM uses straight up domain authentication.
Yeah.
And that's secure because you get your own session key, and there's public key infrastructure that also protects everything. It's set up quite well.
Got it.
Yeah, it's not even detecting this screen right now. Not really being done. Worked last week. Oh, there we go. It came back. It came back. Everything's working. Yay.
It's on BGA now, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I went back to VGA. It's convinced it needs to be on VGA. There we go. Transfer this over. Just close those as they go. All right, so. I'll be giving a presentation on some advanced and a little bit touching on the basics, but some more advanced Wi-Fi sniffing or snooping techniques based on how to be creepy at a coffee shop. If you so desire. I really hope it's on this one. Which, if you're not familiar with it, I can't. Computer.
Just see the path rule, like it.
Hunter 2. That could be so good. Oh. Or did my thing fall off the... Okay. There we go. Now we're going to find out that's actually my other drive account. So your basic Wi-Fi sniffing basically boils down to, I can't even remember what I called it. Perfect, there it is. Your basic Wi-Fi sniffing boils down to the fact that network sniffing in general is just intercepting packets and taking a look at what's going on and then possibly doing something fun with it.
On the right.
On the right? Oh, yeah, there it is. You get like a little preview one, so it shows you what's going on down here. All right, so basically, I really need to mirror this. Your most simple way of going about this is passive sniffing. Wi-Fi makes this really easy because everything is essentially broadcast. It's all going over radio, and it becomes very easy to then just overhear more or less anything you want to. So it can be done almost undetectably because you're not injecting anything, you're not fooling anyone, you're just eavesdropping. And it's quite easy to set up as well. You can essentially just run Wireshark on an interface and start seeing what's going on. And it already isolates you to a single network. If you're in a noisy area with a lot of networks, it's isolated, and that can be an advantage. There are a couple of downsides. The first one is that you do typically need a special Wi-Fi adapter. A little later on, I'll get into a magical thing called monitor mode. It's the awesome God mode of Wi-Fi that lets you do all this cool stuff, and not everything supports it for understandable reasons. It's also really a Linux-only thing. You can sort of do it in Windows, but a lot of Windows drivers basically suck and make it really hard to get into monitor mode, even with devices that support it. You end up missing some traffic if you're channel hopping, frequency hopping, just to try to get to a bunch of different channels. You're obviously only getting that one channel that you're on. If you're hopping between the 3 main channels, you're missing the other 2. You can also just straight up miss some traffic because it was on the other side of the room and there was noise and you're picking up different noise that they weren't. It can just sort of happen. And then, of course, there's no way to answer encryption. Unfortunately, no, we haven't broken SSL yet. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you ask, has not been broken yet. And the only real ways around it are just some sort of hand-wavy stuff to trick people into not using it, which turns out it's actually pretty easy. So, your bread and butter Swiss Army knife of network packet sniffing and everything is Wireshark. From their website, Wireshark is the world's foremost network protocol analyzer. I should say analyzer. It lets you see what's happening on your network at a microscopic level. Basically, Wireshark is awesome. I got some screenshots here from it. You can look at all of these packets, rows and rows of packets. You can filter them by who's sending them, who's getting them, what protocol they are. There's a million ways to filter them, and then you can dissect them and break them apart layer by layer, see exactly what's going on. They're not lying when they say microscopic. You can grab a packet, dissect it down to the lowest layer, see everywhere it's been, see where it's going, and everything sort of secret or hidden from the user is revealed to someone using Wireshark. Hopefully they're nice. And of course, it's demo time here. So your basic Wireshark deal will just be running Wireshark on your own local machine. And I'll go ahead and see that come here. So here's your main screen for Wireshark. And we're just going to go ahead and listen on our own wireless interface and then start it up. And you'll see it's very quickly flooding with packets. So we're going to throw a filter on there right away now for HTTP, just because everything else is quite enlightening, but also pretty noisy. And like I said, I actually highly recommend that if you're bored one afternoon, just fire up Wireshark on your own machine and browse the web for a while. See what all is going on. You can actually learn a lot, and you'll see that there's quite a bit that's actually leaking through. And then to go ahead and sort of point this out, I'm going to fire up Chrome, a new instance of Chrome, theoretically. Or we'll just use wget. So we're listening and we're filtering for HTTP traffic. Notice there's no HTTP going on my machine right now. But if we just issue a wget to Google, which I'm sorry you can't see this on the other screen, but you'll see it come up there. Which that 192.168.50.69 is my IP address. And you'll see here some wonderful packets flying back and forth. Some get requests getting a 301, and then you'll say this 301 is, well, let's take a look at it. Let's dissect it apart. It says, so here, it's a bunch of frames as it's getting framed and layered. And then here's our hypertext transfer protocol, or HTTP. You'll see that the replies for 301, it moved permanently. Google has moved. I wonder where Google moved to. It'll be listed down here in the headers, or possibly just down here in the content. Yep, it has moved, well, to google.com. All right, don't doubt the ways of the internet. But here you should see some real content. This one, tons and tons of HTML. Actually not much because Google's a pretty small website. But you can see, snipped a packet, we can see everything that's going back and forth. If that were, say, Reddit, or some other website that has session-based authentication, which is anything that you can log into, you'd see session cookies. If it was the login page, the password and username would be in there. And all of this other not good stuff that you really don't want people to sniff.
Except SSL.
And the answer is SSL. If this were HTTPS one, which I'll go ahead and send that right now, it actually probably won't get picked up by the filter. Yep, that didn't even show up in the filter, so we'll go ahead and look for, I don't know, I'm going to go left to go right, that's annoying. Filter for HTTPS. No, they can't filter for that. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, you just gotta do TCP, and then if you want just HTTPS, you just have to.
It probably can't even tell that it's HTTPS. Yeah. So you've used Wireshark before?
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, okay, it's back. So we could grab TCP.
There. Yeah.
Yep. And it actually recognizes that it's SSL, but because it's all a bunch of encrypted gibberish as far as the sniffing computer is concerned, there's nothing we can do about that. And unless you're doing some really magical stuff, like maybe you stole their SSL certificate because you're a 3-letter agency that enjoys stealing people's SSL certificates, then you can do this. But if you don't, then there's really nothing you can do about it. Which brings us to, oh, there's Google. Which brings us to later in the topic, where I'll show you what we can actually do about that and how we can get rid of this pesky encryption that makes it hard for us to spy on people. So I mentioned earlier promiscuous mode and monitor mode. They're two somewhat related modes that let you do things that are a little bit more awesome than you normally can with Wi-Fi. So there's 3 filters that you have to worry about when you're sniffing Wi-Fi traffic. The first filter is the channel or the frequency. You have to be on the same channel as someone to be able to see what they're doing. Of course, you can channel hop, or you can just pick a channel. And that's just a couple ways to sort of bypass this filter, even though it's not a real filter. The second one is the SSID filter. The SSID filter is that little network name. It gets translated into a MAC address of an access point, and we all just sort of ignore everyone else and let them be on their way because we don't care about them because they're on a different network. Monitor mode, well, you pick your SSID and then you're on there. The third filter, which is common to even a wired connection, is the MAC filter, where the interface controller, in this case the Wi-Fi adapter or the integrated Wi-Fi adapter, straight up drops and ignores any packets that don't have its MAC address or broadcast MAC address because it's not interested in them. The bypass that was promiscuous mode, where it will go ahead and accept and pass up every single packet regardless of whether or not it thinks it needs it. This is important for routers or virtual machine hosts. There's a lot of different things. Unfortunately, no Wi-Fi adapters out there can go in a straight up promiscuous mode. They just can't do it. I'm assuming there's a good reason, but it makes it pretty annoying. You can't do it. So the answer is monitor mode. monitor mode is a combination of promiscuous mode and disabling the SSID filter. When you're in monitor mode, you can't really send stuff to the network, you can't join it, but instead you can literally eavesdrop on everything. That's exactly what monitor mode is for. And it doesn't come on a lot of, or it doesn't come supported on a lot of stock, normal Wi-Fi adapters. You have to sort of shop around, but you can find one. They're not sketchy or expensive or anything. They're just, not everything supports them. And I mentioned earlier, Windows does not like monitor mode at all. It really doesn't like going into it. So that's that. So basically, monitor mode sniffing is your vanilla Wi-Fi sniffing, how to be creepy, which Wireshark supports right out of the box. And we just have to stop, and we can close out this one. Get back here, and I'll go into my USB Wi-Fi adapter, and we can go into our settings, and go capture monitor mode. If you were here on the first day, I believe we demonstrated Cookie Catcher, and we used monitor mode to do that. Cookie Catcher actually uses the same libraries under the hood as Wireshark. It's just a little bit more of a specialized tool than Wireshark. So now we're capturing in monitor mode. And anyone who's not on EDU Roam, your packets will be showing up in this. So HTTP, let's see, is that thing scrolled down? No. Get some more recent packets here. I'm going to grab my phone and hopefully give us some interesting traffic. If I can find my cursor. Right, so we're now listening in monitor mode on the same frequency, because frequency is still relevant, on the same frequency as ISU Cardinal. I'm connected with my phone right now, and then I'll just send some plain old unencrypted traffic through to Reddit, and we should possibly see that come up, assuming my phone can get internet connection again. Good. Currently loading Reddit on my phone, and it's not loading. Wonderful. Well, let's take a look then at what is actually going on. Because I can't generate any traffic, but there's plenty going on here. So, I should really mirror this. I'm just going to grab this one and pull it off the side so I can take a look. What we have here is a capture of HTTP. It looks like a broadcast search. Yep. So someone is searching. We can actually find out who. It's UDP, which is very interesting. I have no idea why someone's sending HTTP over UDP. That might actually be a phone, because phones tend to do weird things like that.
That's universal plug and play. So that also shows up under the Wireshark filter for some reason. So if you want to get true HTTP, you do the HTTP and
TCP
not
port.
destination port 91900.
I'm wondering who's doing UPnP on the ISU network or on Wi-Fi in here. So that's a little weird. But we can actually find out by hopping up to the radio tap header, and please give us our source MAC address. So the transmitter address, it's an Apple device. So Apple devices are broadcasting, looking for things to cooperate with it. It's probably someone's iPhone. Hopefully they're in this room. But so yeah, iPhone's poking around. I'll go ahead and throw that. I'll throw a TCP port 80 header on this. What did I do? That's what we've done. Okay, so this looks like a little bit more interesting. Someone called to generate 204 and returned to 204. So this is everything now. Wireshark can follow streams, and sometimes that can get a bit weird. when you're in monitor mode, because like I said, monitor mode has a chance of missing packets. So if you just want much more reliable sniffing as well as the ability to sort of interact with them in ways, this is where it gets advanced. So we still don't have any way to deal with SSL, even in monitor mode. We're just eavesdropping. And we can't interact with them even a little bit just to try to get them to do something a little dumb. So we're going to back this up, and what we're going to do now is we're going to give them Wi-Fi. We're going to be the access point, and then we're going to jump all of their packets through to a wonderful tool called SSL Strip, and then we get to see everything they do, because we're really creepy like that. So unsecured Wi-Fi is really awesome. Most people think, oh no, I don't want to have my unsecured Wi-Fi because people are going to drive up in a weird white van, connect to my Wi-Fi, and download child porn. And then I'm going to get calls from the FBI, not them. That's possible, but the main concern for unsecured Wi-Fi is what you need to be worried about as the device that's connecting to it. Because you have no guarantee that that's actually the right access point. All Wi-Fi security, I think even web, but you shouldn't be using that anyway, guarantees A, that whoever's trying to connect to the access point knows the password, but it also guarantees that the access point knows the password. The access point can't just say, yeah, that's the right password, come on, here's free candy. It has to actually know the right password. So if you're connecting to a WPA secured access point, you know that whoever set up that access point also knows the password. It's a little bit of security confidence. When you're using something like EduRoam, where there's 802.11x, which is the very fancy special authentication that involves passwords, then it absolutely guarantees that it's part of the real network and not just an imposter access point. One tool that really makes this a lot of fun is a utility called Karma. It's very well supported by Wi-Fi Pineapple. Basically, all devices actually broadcast their list of preferred networks. It's kind of hilarious when you think about it. Because you get your list of your home network, everyone's got Linksys in some hotel that you went to 3 years ago. Your laptop asks, is anyone any of these networks? Karma just says, yeah, sure. And most laptops nowadays don't actually auto-connect networks in that way, thankfully. But some phones still do. I'm finding out on my phone that CyanogenMod it actually gets really, really angry at Karma, which is a good thing. It's definitely an experimental tool that's useful for scooping up low-hanging fruit without actually going after a target. But that's actually running on the Wi-Fi Pineapple right now. And so yeah, if you've connected to an unsecured access point since then, you might have actually connected to the Pineapple. If anyone sees some weird hotel Wi-Fi that you were at a couple months ago, that's probably actually the Wi-Fi Pineapple, not that hotel. And then there you go. You've scooped up a bunch of people, and now you are their router and their access point, which means that you can do whatever you want to their traffic. So for starters, all of that's going to be visible in Wireshark now. So you can run Wireshark instead of on a sniffing interface. You can actually go and run it on the Wi-Fi Pineapple interface, which is a wired interface. No monitor mode necessary. Promiscuous mode, yes, that is necessary. And then start Wireshark. So now what I've got here is a Wi-Fi Pineapple that's really, really trying hard to get people to use it as their access point. Running straight into my laptop and then sniffing on that. So currently there's nothing going on, which is good. I guess it means that it's not scooping up people, and I'm assuming because everyone out here is using EduRoam or off the network, that means it'd be scooping up other people, and I don't want to do that. So Wi-Fi Pineapple is sort of capturing people and getting them to use it as their access point, and then sending it through to my laptop. My laptop is running a piece of software called SSL Strip, which is so SSL Strip runs in reverse or a transparent proxy. What's transparent proxy? If you're familiar with a proxy, it's just something you send your request to, they relay the request, and then relay the response. A transparent proxy is one that you don't know about. As the end user, it just sort of takes your request, sends it along the way, and then sends it back. SSL Strip is a more or less generic transparent proxy. The basics for setting that up are that you need to enable IP forwarding, which on Linux that's how you do it. You just enable IP forwarding, set it equal to 1, and then you need to set up a rule that redirects all traffic to your transparent proxy port. In my case, it's 3125. So SSL Strip is, like I said, it's transparent proxy. Works more or less like any other transparent proxy, except it does some really funny things. It looks at all of your links and gets rid of all the S's in HTTPS. So it changes all the links back to regular vulnerable HTTP links. Also, if any server sends you a redirect like, no, please use HTTPS, it just sort of ignores that and doesn't bother to tell it to you. But then what makes SSL Strip a real bro is that it actually does the encryption for you. So there's all these people who are now connected to your Wi-Fi Pineapple getting their internet from you, but you're doing their encryption for them, so they don't need to worry about it, which is a very nice thing to do, and it has the side effect of having a nice convenient hole for you to sniff everything that they're doing. So I guess that brings it to SSL Strip, which is the answer, the only real answer to SSL right now, which is sort of a cheaty face answer, is trick people into not using it. Which of course the response to that then is simply education. The only real answer to SSL Strip or anything of that like is going to be letting people know when they might be getting SSL stripped, or just letting them know proof positive that they are using SSL, which is your lovely green bar right up there. It actually says HTTPS, that's good. SSL Strip does something a little nefarious. It puts a little picture of a green lock next to it. But that's not real. It changes the fave icon, which Chrome actually doesn't put them there. Chrome puts them up in the tab. Oh no, I've lost my cursor. Found it. Chrome puts the fave icon up there. So it changed it to a little green lock, give you a little bit of confidence, tries to buffalo the user into thinking they're actually using SSL when they're not. There is one technical countermeasure against it called HSTS, which is a little magic flag that the server sends down and says, never connect to me again without using encryption. And then your browser will be like, okay. And it's basically SSL Strip in reverse, where it will always force it to use HTTPS. The downside of this one is you need to visit the server at least once first for the server to set that flag, or else your browser will just, SSL Strip will definitely not forward that flag. It's not that nice. And then there's a couple plugins that help with this. The EFF has HTTPS Everywhere. That's a very nice browser plugin. Does break a few things like Reddit by trying to force HTTPS, and they don't support it.
Reddit supports HTTPS now.
Yeah, they've recently changed. I haven't tested it again since then, so that's probably out of date, and you should all use HTTPS Everywhere, or just always be paranoid and make sure that you're actually connecting over SSL for everything, because if you don't demand it, you cannot count on the server to demand it for you. And that wraps it up for me. Announcements-wise, we've covered Green Team sign-up. Show of hands if you're interested in doing Green Team. You get free pizza, you get t-shirts. We have like $300 worth of junk food and pop. And all you have to do is log into people's servers, and sometimes they're broken, and it's hilarious. I do highly recommend that you sign up for that if you're not in the cyber defense competition. Who's in the cyber defense competition? All right, so yeah, that's why you're not all interested in Green Team. But I would still recommend it, and that's the sign-up link. One other announcement, in 2 weeks, next week, Ben Holland will be coming to do a talk about his work with DARPA. He's currently working on a DARPA project involving Android malware. It is bleeding edge stuff, and it'll actually be very nice to have him come and talk. So you should try to make that one if you're thinking about not. And
is he a former ISU?
He is an ISU grad. He currently actually works here, but he isn't a student. He is a researcher. I think he's just a straight up malware researcher. Gets paycheck. Yep, he is a CyberCore grad, but now he's a DARPA researcher that happens to work at Iowa State.
Oh, really?
And then the week after that, just to have this on your radar, we'll be doing a large presentation, especially in the hackerspace, with playing around with embedded devices. So if you've ever been on the fence about getting an Arduino or worried about not having someone to teach you how to use it, this is your chance. In 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a talk, just an introduction to the wonderful world of programming and soldering iron and hacking embedded devices. We'll be going over that at the talks. There's plenty of us in the club and who know a lot about that, and it'll be a good chance to learn if you've ever been interested.